You're listening to The Rule of Law, the educational podcast sponsored by Allrise, where we focus on the intersection of law, technology, and storytelling. And now, here's your host, Lauren Round.
Welcome to Rule of Law. In today's episode, we sit down with Casey Berman, strategy consultant, attorney, and founder of Leave Law Behind. We unpack how attorneys can thoughtfully navigate the decision to remain in law or pursue an alternative career path, common blockers in navigating a career change, how to discover your unique genius, and more. Casey, welcome to the podcast. Where are you calling in from?
Well, thank you for having me. So nice to be here. I am calling in from Maui, Hawaii.
Maui, amazing. If I should have planned this better, and I would have insisted on coming to you to record in person.
Welcome
to the podcast anyway. Well, we always get started with an icebreaker just to kind of get to know you before we dive in. So your question is, what was your favorite place to vacation or visit as a child growing up?
Yeah, it gets me thinking. I grew up in San Francisco, California. Family still there. And so I think the most favorite place that I had that we went when we were a kid was up to Calistoga, which is up in Napa Valley. It's about an hour north. It's gotten a little shishi recently in the past few years, but when we went there in the 80s, when I was growing up, it was just kind of small country town. They had spas, they had the mineral water. They had the wineries and so on. Not many people knew that much about it. So there was this spot we went to and we would just swim and enjoy the hot weather and go on hikes and walk around. And we'd go there a few times a year. So that was really not the most exotic of all vacations we did, but still, I think that was really my and my family's favorite place.
Some core memories there,
Yeah.
It sounds like, for sure.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I want to kind of preface before we dive into our conversation. Our regular listeners know on this show, we talk a lot about trends in the legal industry, the latest in legal tech, stories from fellow lawyers. And today we're talking about something totally different, and that is leaving the practice of law altogether. And the reason we're talking about this and having this conversation is because I have never, in all of my years in the legal industry, met another lawyer who has not, at one point or another, thought about leaving the industry. And it is a tough industry. It's not for everyone. And you, Casey, have made a career out of helping lawyers kind of navigate that question and leave the practice of law and go on to pursue another passion and kind of make the transition successfully. So I wanted to start with that to add some context. But if you wouldn't mind kind of kicking us off with just a little bit more about you, your background, and your journey to starting Leave the Law Behind.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having these conversations. I will first start off by saying that the world needs attorneys. So the world needs lawyers. It needs good lawyers. It needs great lawyers. It needs lawyers who care and who advocate. So by founding Leave Law Behind and helping unhappy attorneys to leave the law for another non-law career, I by no means is this pointing the finger at the law or anything like that, saying it's bad or anything along those lines. So the world needs attorneys. America needs good attorneys. That being said, there are many who went to law school, who practice law right now, who are just not connected, not aligned. They're not happy with the work. And some people would say, well, just buck up and just do it and just suck it up and so on. Okay, maybe. But a lot of the suicide, a lot of the alcoholism, a lot of the drug abuse, a lot of depression, a lot of the anxiety comes from that idea of us attorneys just saying, well, I'm just going to grind through it. I have the investment in law school and work and my identity, and I don't want to make my parents unproud and on and on. There's all these reasons, and they move forward. And some keep doing it, but others see that the world needs them doing something else. So I'll just preface again by saying that. And in many ways, it's a win-win, because when I've seen numerous times when a lawyer leaves their firm or their practice, they go somewhere else. You know who they send the legal business to? Their former firm, and they stay in good contact with. So it's a win-win. So I'm happy to come back to that, but I want everyone to know that I firmly believe in the need for good attorneys and lawyers. Those who just don't fit should be doing something else. The world needs them doing something else. And that's really where I fit. I did software licensing for 5 years. I was graduated University of California, Hastings in San Francisco. I think it's called UC Law now. And I did software licensing, tech startup, .com days. I'm 51 and a half, if anyone's trying to do the math. And I had it. San Francisco, dog in the office, gummy bears in the kitchen, you name it, tech startup. It was great. I learned a ton. I love my job. It was fantastic. But I wanted to do something else. Law was great. I did software licensing, but it got anxious. It got stressful. It was very reactive. It literally just wasn't for me. No knock on it. It just was more reactive, putting out fires. I wanted to be more proactive, frontline with the customers and so on. And so I was very happy to have that job, but there came a point where I just realized this just wasn't for me, and I left. And so that was in 2005, right when I got married. Not the best timing, had a lot of bumps and bruises. A lot of people doubted me and said, what the heck are you doing? But over those next few years, as I kind of figured things out, I did some freelancing, I did operations, I did some legal work. I got into management consulting and qualitative research, which is really what has taken off. I have my own qualitative and market research firm now. And so in addition to Leave Law Behind. And so what happened is the career services woman at UC Hastings, whenever she would run into someone, a law student who didn't want to practice law anymore, 1L, 2L, said, this isn't for me. I'm going to finish so it isn't for me. She didn't know what to do with them. And she would say, you know what, go downtown, hop on the subway, go to meet this guy, Casey, have a cup of coffee. And maybe 1 or 2 a year I'd meet with. And then I said, wait a minute, there's something here of law students, even just a few a year. So I started blogging in 2009, just kind of my private journal became a public journal. 10, 11, 12, 13, Google picked it up. I started writing more. People came to me for coaching. I said, what is this coaching thing? We built an online platform, and it's really just taken off since. And so this little passion project and kind of this idea of how I transitioned out of the law became a full-fledged business. There was a real need there. So I'll stop there. I don't want to bore everyone with my life story, but that's kind of how I got into this, and really just kind of following and understanding. I just started writing about my experience, and it aligned with other people.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it sounds like it was a very organic transition, but also you glossed over a lot of the really hard work it takes to transition from, blogging to doing some sort of side coffees to actually transitioning into a successful business. So we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to kind of start at the beginning of this big question of whether or not to leave the legal industry as a practicing attorney, because we've all had those bad days. A partner yells at you, a client drops you, whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that you should quit your job. So, how can lawyers tell the difference, and how do you help them tell the difference between just kind of a bad day, a midlife crisis, a rough patch, or a sign that they maybe actually should try to find a new career?
It's a great question. And really it comes down to mainly, there's a lot of elements, or couldn't be, but mainly time and intensity. So how long have you been feeling this? Oh, last week was horrible. How was the week before? It was okay. It was actually pretty good. Okay, let's give this more time, right? How long have you been feeling this? I have hated this role for 12 years. I am 42. I hate this. Really? Okay, so difference in time, obviously. And then the intensity. It's okay. My life isn't perfect, but what is, it's okay. I still like it. I love writing, and I love the building the law practice. Maybe the law isn't totally for me, but I've been able to optimize this and optimize that. Or, hey, I actually love geeking out on immigration law, and Trump is just a challenge for me, and I'm just going to embrace it, and I'm going to go in there, and I love fighting, and it's great. Okay. Compared to, this work is so boring. I've never liked it. I went to be a lawyer to make my mom proud, or because I couldn't go to medical school, or because whatever. And I've just never liked this. I never liked this. What I really like to do is people. I just love connecting with people. Or what I really like to do is a real life example from Gabe Rothman and Leave Law Behind grad. I love geeking out on fantasy football and all the contingencies and mapping things out. So therefore, what he moved into was a consulting practice. And now he does revenue operations, where he literally maps out all the contingencies to make sure a sales team is running and marketing team are running at their best pace, right? And that's something we connected the dots. The fact that he was fantasy football guy in college, he loves those contingencies. He loves connecting the dots. He loves the what if scenarios and mapping all that out. Loves Excel spreadsheets. So in that case, don't keep doing construction litigation. Not for you. What we need to do is get you into like a process job, a project management job, a product management job, something like that. So it really comes down to time and intensity. And some are clear cut, like the examples I just gave. Some of them are a little murky and a little more nuanced, and you just kind of sit on it. What you can do, this also isn't just a, hey, it's Monday, I talked to Casey, Tuesday, I'm giving notice. You take a few baby steps. Okay, if you're not sure about the time or intensity, go do an informational interview. Go talk to Lauren. She's a content creator now. Go talk to your niece's friend who works at Netflix, whatever it is, and just ask them about their job. Your boss isn't going to find out. They're not going to tell anyone, and literally just start finding out. And you may say, oh God, that non-lawyer job sounds more stressful than mine. I'm good where I'm at. Or you may say, oh my God, I had no idea there was even a job like that. So there's really small, safe, confidence building baby steps you can take to really help answer that question, should I leave or should I not?
Okay, that's super helpful. And I think kind of taking this in order, even if an attorney thinks, this isn't for me, I've done these steps of kind of getting out there, networking. I found this job that I definitely don't want to transition to, but this job could be interesting. There are transferable skills. Those alone are huge steps, but still the act of walking away is just such a big and some people would perceive as drastic step to take. And I mean, part of that is becoming a lawyer is not an easy road, right? There's undergrad law school and passing the bar just to get to day one. And that's before getting a job and starting a practice. Yeah. And so I imagine, throwing that all away, or the perception that you're throwing that all away, is just such a big hurdle. So you kind of alluded to some of these points earlier in the intro, but what are some of those most common points of resistance when it comes to actually walking away, and how do you help attorneys overcome those?
Yeah. No, I'm very happy you asked that. And in our coaching program, we've got 5 modules. There's 5 steps that we take folks through. And the first one is overcoming your blockers, overcoming those fears, overcoming those obstacles, however anyone wants to think about it. Sometimes people don't want to say they're afraid, so we won't call it a fear. It's a blocker, however you want to think about it. But first of all, it is a perception that they're throwing it all away. So I want everyone who's listening to understand that you're not throwing it all away. If you were to even consider, and forget saying leave the law, that's kind of a dramatic name, and we did that on purpose, but just transitioning to a new career, your law degree, your law experience, your work experience is a stepping stone, is chapter 1. We usually call it career stage V 2.0. So I'm a sports fan, but if you think of a sports player who then goes into broadcasting or goes into management. I mean, Tom Brady, I think everyone knows Tom Brady, even non-sports fans. I think he's making more money per year with this sports announcing with Fox, this 10-year contract, than he ever did playing quarterback for the Patriots, right? I think he made 16 million a year. I'm sure there are lawyers who will fact check me right now. I think it's a 10-year, $370 million contract. I think it's a lot of money, right? So I know it's a lot of money. You can fact check me on the exact. So did he just throw football away? Not at all. If anything, football is the only reason he got this gig that he can now have for the 10 years. And I think he wants to become an owner of a football team, and he's got all these endorsements and all that. How did that happen? Because he was a football player for the first part of his career. Well, the same thing as lawyers. And even if you're not a sports fan, think of a celebrity, think of someone like that who has used that to move into something else. And so this is really, you're not throwing it all away. It's a stepping stone to something else. And a lot of your skills and strengths and everything you've nurtured are in demand. Okay. So, and I'm going to get to the blockers in a minute, but I want to make this point. Think of everything you do well: the adult in the room, put out fires, upsell clients, advocate for your clients, tell stories, high EQ, read the details, be that translator, however you want to look at it. Those are in demand in many other jobs, non-lawyer jobs. And many non-lawyers who are in those jobs don't have the training that we had as lawyers. So in many ways, you come in even better than they are. Now, what are the blockers? One, like you said, I'm throwing this all away. There are many of them. We've listed over 25 or so, and they're all really illusions. As we help people through this, say, you know what, that's not that big of a deal. But the big ones are, will I make enough money? For some reason, lawyers think that they make the most money in the world when really they don't. I have a quick story I can tell about that, but it's I won't make enough money. My identity is so tied to being a lawyer. My skills are not transferable. There's nothing else in the world I can do. Even if you convince them of success stories and testimonials, the fourth one is, well, Casey was able to leave the law, but I'm special. I'm different than they are. There's definitely a feeling of the ROI I sunk so much into. I should just kind of keep doing it. The other one is a loyalty to a law firm that, by the way, I'm whispering here, they don't really care. When you leave, they're just going to move on, as they should. But this loyalty to the law firm and the job, well, I'll leave them and hey, and oh my God, they're not really going to care. They're going to move on. So those are some of the initial blockers, and I can get in more detail if you want, but those are some of the initial blockers and obstacles that really get in the way.
And so for attorneys, I mean, let's say, you kind of alluded to this in the last couple of questions, but for attorneys who know they want to leave, and they might think, yeah, I've been a transactional lawyer for 12 years. I don't know what that could possibly translate to on the outside. And I don't really feel like starting over. And that plays into all of those other blockers, right? If you're starting over, you're a novice at something, maybe you won't make as much money to start with. Where can those attorneys even start in exploring, hey, like, what are my transferable skills? I mean, you mentioned kind of connecting with people in other industries, connecting with lawyers who may have made the transition, but is there anything else that they can do to kind of just explore before they decide to commit to the decision to definitely transition?
Absolutely. Grab pen and paper, take notes. I'm gonna give it all away right here. First off, one great thing to do is go to leavelawbehind.com, opt in. We have a ton of free resources. So quick plug there, but dive in. We also have paid for coaching and courses, which we tell you down the road, but we have a ton. I like to say our free resources are even better than many of the other paid for resources out there. So that's a great first place to start. But the process that you go through first is identifying the fears that we talked about. Literally lay them out on a piece of paper, even the weirdest ones. We've done this before, and you just want to look at them, and I'll be embarrassed, or I'll fail, or what will my friends think, or I'm worried about this. I mean, even the stuff that makes you cringe a little, get it out on paper. The second step really involved in that is your identity. Start focusing on how attached your identity is to that. We have a whole module on that in our course. And really, the good news here is you can have your cake and eat it too, because everyone will always know you're an attorney. I kept my California license current for a long time, just to make my mom proud, and also just to keep it. I finally went inactive, but you can do whatever you want, but lawyer is still on your LinkedIn. People will still hear it at a cocktail party. They'll still hear it when you work. If you wear glasses like I do sometimes, they'll really think you're smart. I cannot tell you how many times people have come to me as a non-lawyer and said, I didn't know you were a lawyer. Wow. And instant cachet, instant status, which is what we all want. And I didn't have to do the lawyer work. I'm telling you, everybody, like, it is so good when you leave the law, because your identity, you don't lose it. So if you don't trust me, trust me. And if you don't, well, you'll find out soon enough. But that's the second step. Third step. All right, this is where we get, Lauren, into what you asked about transferable skills, what we call your unique genius. And again, if you're a sports fan, think of it as the scouting report. Or if you're an actor or a singer, think of it as what the equivalent there. Like, they can hit this note, but not that note. They're good for comedy, this. But it's kind of like that. What is it really you're good at? And remember, what we're really looking at very myopically is, what value do you provide? What services do you provide? All right. If Tom Brady, again, back to my example, wasn't a handsome guy, if he wasn't kind of debonair, if he didn't have success and he couldn't speak well, he's probably not good on TV. No matter how great he was, there were some great football players who the networks did not even want on TV because they can't speak well. They can't tell a story. Brady's okay at telling a story from what I've watched. He's not the best, but he's got so much else. But think of those people, whether they're actors or announcers, who just are so good at, that's their unique genius. Okay, now how do you find your unique genius? I'm going to tell it to you right now. 3 questions that you ask. One is you go out to people, friends, family, and if there's that shallow frat bro from college who you don't want to ask, don't ask him. I'm sure he'd actually be honored at this time to like really, oh my God, yes, I'd be happy to help. You might be projecting onto him. A lot of people get stuck here. Casey, I don't want to ask. I don't want to impose on them. I don't want to, they're going to think I'm stupid. Okay, then don't ask them. But find 2, 3, 5, 7 people that you're cool with and ask them these 3 questions via email. Talk to them, take notes so they can email it back. What am I good at? Just compliment me. What am I good at? What have I done or what do I do for free? And what advice, besides legal advice, what advice do you come to me for? Just get all of that content. Now, it could be you're great at planning parties, you're great at putting the IKEA tables together, you're great at doing trips, but you'll also get, you listen well, you speak well, you're empathetic, or you're extremely quiet. We never hear from you, but everything just seems to get done. You're a behind the scenes you're going to get all of this information. And some of it they can't answer. That's fine. You get all, I mean, this is just due diligence. This is fact gathering, right? This is discovery. And you gather this information and then you bucket it. And we have buckets in through our program, fun bucket, interpersonal, empathetic, schmooze, or whatever it is, but organize them. And then you look at the buckets, you see how they're organized, and then you connect jobs to them. This is kind of the secret sauce we help with, but you then have jobs that are connected to your buckets and the areas of your traits and skills that rise to the top. Maybe you love schmoozing with people, you're interpersonal, you're not really into details. Okay, let's go sales, let's go business development. Maybe we go to something that's affiliate marketing or something. Maybe you're not a people person, but you're behind the scenes and you love to connect the dots like Gabe Rothman. Okay, let's go chief operating officer. Let's go VP of operations. Let's go revenue operations, business process optimization, stuff like that. I know someone may say, I don't know what business process optimization is. Don't worry about it. That's what we take you through and you'll learn and you go speak with people. So that's the 3rd step. And then the 4th step is getting out there. There's a lot to it, but it's about taking that story with your unique genius traits, creating a resume. Hint, ChatGPT can help a lot now. Creating a LinkedIn profile, going to do informational interviews, checking out job boards. Hint, don't apply. It's very difficult to get a job. Just the commercials on Monster and Indeed, I think, are false advertising. That the ding from the resume upload just doesn't happen right away, the resume acceptance. And so meeting with people, connecting, networking, talking about your story. And then invariably what happens is someone says, interesting, send me your resume along because I think we're looking for someone. We haven't published a job yet. Or interesting, I don't know, but let me put you in touch with the chief of staff because he or she may know more than I do about the role we're looking for, right? Happens all the time. So overcome your fears, work on that identity. The 3rd, unique genius. That's where you really understand transferable skills with the questions I ask. And then the 4th is about getting out there, connecting and networking. One last thing about networking. You may be thinking, oh God, I don't want to go to the country club and schmooze. That's not it at all. Based on the jobs that bubble up from your unique genius analysis, you go speak to people in that job area or adjacent to it. So it's very targeted networking, who to speak with for you ultimately to get that job that's a fit for you. So hopefully that answers the questions, but I want to get as detailed as possible. Hopefully folks are taking notes, but those are really the steps you can take right now on your own or we can help you, but on your own to leave the law.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. I appreciate you breaking it down step by step. Everyone can rewind that and play it again and take notes. That's super helpful and super practical. And I'm so glad you brought up the point at the outset about this idea of status and attorneys having this status when they're practicing and not wanting to lose that. And that's something that has stuck out to me, like even in the earliest days of my career, just this kind of pedestal that society's puts attorneys on. And I remember earlier in my career getting work that I had no business doing over someone who had decades of experience but happened to not be an attorney. And not hating on the industry, I think there are valid reasons for some of that to be true. But yeah, I can imagine that's definitely on a lot of attorneys' minds when they're considering this. Yeah.
And that stature is valid. Let's think about it. Like you said, we've done a lot of work. We've been through law school. So in many ways, that stature is valid and people do recognize it. And I'm happy they recognize it. Sometimes, like in your example, it can not be fully merited. But for the most part, that is valid. When you get it, and then you connect with someone who gets it, a hiring manager, and this happens a lot, all the time. Of, oh, I didn't really understand why you're leaving law. Now I see. Now I see that. Interesting. Okay, I got it. Yeah, send me your resume. This would be good. All the time. And it's right. Someone may not. Why are you interviewing for this role? You're a lawyer. Yeah, but when you have that down, that the pitch as we work it on, and they within 10, 15 seconds, they say, got it. Okay. Yes. And then they actually get very excited because you're different than other folks. So
deploying new software technology can disrupt familiar workflows and processes, and it often comes with a steep learning curve for the employees in your law firm. We get it, but it doesn't have to be that way. All Rise is a comprehensive law practice management system deeply integrated with the Microsoft tools and technology you're already familiar with. So no steep learning curve is required. And because All Rise is a modular software platform, you can deploy only the specific capabilities you need when you need them. Your choice. If you want to streamline internal operations, boost staff productivity, and deliver superior client service, then take a close look at the AI-powered All Rise platform. It's time to experience software innovation that enables practice excellence. Learn more at allrise.ai.
Taking a step back for a moment, this is a great playbook for attorneys who got into this maybe for the right or wrong reasons, thing change, whatever their reason is for wanting to transition to a new role. But at the end of the day, it's not always ideal to kind of get a decade into your career before realizing that this isn't what you want to do, even if that is the lead into you doing something else. But with the debt and everything else, any thoughts on how young attorneys or even law students should kind of more carefully go about considering whether law school is something they want to pursue or continue on? I think, a lot of young students don't necessarily know what it looks like to be a lawyer day to day. And then you find yourself in this position that's just completely overwhelming or not what you thought it was. And I know you've sat down with law students in the past that you've mentioned. So any advice for maybe current students, or if anyone's listening that's considering going to law school, or if their kids considering going to law school, how to more carefully make that decision?
Yeah, don't do it. So I'm saying that a bit tongue in cheek. If you're in law school, finish, complete it, get the license, of course. And if you're considering law school, don't do what I did. Don't go in right after undergrad. Take a year off, even bartend. Just have some fun, first of all. And even if you're a type A, and I know life is short and you're in your 20s now, and trust me, you got plenty of time. Take a year off. If you don't want to bartend and you want to go intern and be somewhere serious, fine. But you really should, as you mentioned, Lauren, you really should shadow attorneys, talk to attorneys, do informational interviews with attorneys, with paralegals, with other folks to really understand what this job is like. You can read a lot of it at Leave Law Behind. Or other areas, just Google unhappy attorney, and I'm sure on Reddit you'll find a bunch. But I would shadow. I would check it out because law school. Some law schools are changing, but law schools teach you the law. They don't really teach you how to be a lawyer, and that's been said over and over for years and years now. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a fix to it. But a lot of lawyers go in and don't know how to run a business, whether their own practice or a small firm or part of a big firm. And if you're part of a big firm, you're running your own practice, really, or even how to navigate. Now, luckily, and some Leave Law Behind members have become this, there are attorney mentors and there's coaches, attorney development, which is really an offshoot of professional development, which is a new way of saying corporate trainer. But attorney development, and for the law firms that don't just pay lip service to this, but really believe in this, fantastic work they're doing. They bring in former lawyers. A Leave Law Behind grad actually moved into this in Texas, and they help young attorneys to understand the ropes, learn how to connect with these older attorneys, the generational divide, how to deal with a bunch of things, not be thrown into the water. And they even might say a bit in, say, this really isn't for you, and that's okay, and sort of move them into another career or law adjacent. But So I would say for folks who are looking to go into law school, or parents with kids thinking about going to law school, don't go in right away. Shadow, really do your due diligence. And you may say, who cares? It's just law school. Law school is totally different than undergrad. This is not just like a fifth year at college. There are no parties. I mean, there are parties, depends on the school, but it's really just not that fun. I mean, it's work. Like it is really, really serious. And your 22-year-old, like I was in tax class, is going to be with 32-year-olds and 42-year-olds. This guy in tax, he got every question right. And finally, I saw him in the cafe in the morning before a problem set. I was a liberal arts major at Cal. I didn't know what a problem set was. And I went up to him and I said, can you help me? Really nice guy. He said, sure. And he helped me. I mean, lickety split, knocked out the 3 or 4. I said, how did you do that? And he's like, well, I was a CPA for 10 years before I went to law school. And that's when it hit me. I said, I am 22 years old, 23. I'm in tax class with a CPA. I mean, I am so in over my head here, right? So to parents, take that time, really shadow it, see, and especially nowadays, with just what the world is going with beyond just Google and digital and the internet, where it is with AI, where it is with crypto, where it is with Web3, there are so many other options that your 21, 22-year-old could jump into and enjoy. And let's just say it, make even more money. So that's what I would say. For law students right now, I would say get the degree. I mean, unless it's killing you, unless it's too much money, unless you want to weigh the weight of staying. But I would say get in, get the degree, get licensed, and then start looking if you want to go into law. But then, just like any other job search, start repackaging what you do for a non-law job. And in many ways, not being so ingrained in law, not one, mentally having that ROI yourself, but two, also not having lawyer experience, kind of having a blank slate, a tabula rasa, if you will. Employers may say, okay, well, let's just hire you for that junior level. I mean, they're kind of looking at you as sort of a smart undergrad in a way, because you don't really have any work experience, but you went through law school. This person's sharp. Great. Let's bring them in. And then you just work your way up and use all the great skills that you have. What I've seen with lawyers, young and older, who get in, once they get their feet wet within 6 months, they're promoted. They're making more money. I mean, let's be honest. We're superstars for all the skills. Once we get over that fear and that anxiety and that insecurity, once we get that confidence back, once we get that mojo back, when you think of all the skills that I listed, we're just, I don't want to sound conceited for us, but we're head and shoulders over a lot of other people. Once we understand the subject matter of this non-lawyer area we're in, once we kind of, again, get the flow, we do great. So that's what I would say to pre-law school as well as law school students.
Yeah, looking back, I did go to law school right out of undergrad. And of course, at that time, I felt really mature and like I had everything figured out. But I do remember sitting in some of the night classes with the folks who had full careers on the side and were going back to get their law degree. And yeah, very, very intimidating, but also probably helpful to kind of sit with some of those folks instead of a room of 22-year-olds.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a tough decision to make at 22 as well. Well, I want to end on a high note. You have worked with tons of attorneys finding new careers, transitioning into something that serves them better. Are there any sort of standout success stories or maybe recent success stories that you wouldn't mind sharing with us? Maybe someone who like really had a hard time earlier on, came to you and has now transitioned successfully, that someone might be able to take some inspiration from.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can, again, at Leave Law Behind on our homepage, as well as on our success story page, you can read all about these. But we've got, let's see, Gabe Rothman, again, who I mentioned earlier, construction litigation. We worked together. He went back to law because he just was like, I can't do this. And then he's one of our huge success stories. He went into, worked on at Blue Wolf, which got bought by IBM. And then he's moved on to a lot of other companies. And now he's like a rising star in the San Francisco tech scene when it comes to cloud computing and revenue and marketing operations. Just he's on our site. Love the guy. He and I become very close friends. Just 3 weeks ago, a federal prosecutor, we started out and when we were coaching last year, and he said, I can't really talk to you that much. I said, well, this is going to be kind of difficult. Why? He said he was working on the East Coast, federal prosecutor, state prosecutor office, and the walls were so thin in the old office that anyone could hear him. And if he's talking law stuff, great. But if he's not, like, what's his boss going to think? So that's how our coaching started. We were able to make it work. And he loves writing, was used to go to big law, worked in finance and on the legal side, and now just left to become, of all things, a reporter on a law adjacent site. He's kind of like a legal reporter, and he writes about kind of the legal angle about a lot of finance and tax and other types of subject matter just like that from kind of a lawyer's and a compliance standpoint. Absolutely loves it. Let's see. I'm trying to think of some other folks who have left. Mike Chestnut, 57 years old, had run in a small Indiana town his criminal law practice for 30 years. And we helped him understand his unique genius. And he's got a job essentially in operations compliance with a healthcare services business, which he absolutely loves. So those are just some of the stories. There's one woman who worked in Philadelphia who was just getting just beaten down by all of the work in her litigation practice. She moved in to become a trust officer at a bank, uses her subject matter experience, and has a great balance, and then now can actually deal with people and work with families as they're dealing with these important events. So I mean, there's like 30 other people I have in mind. We've helped hundreds of people leave. There's thousands of people in the community. Those are some examples, and they always say, one, God, I wish I had done this sooner, and two, I am never going back to being a lawyer. Again, not a knock on law. If you love the law, great. But really for them, they've really found that non-lawyer role that's a fit for them. So those are some of the success stories we've had.
And all of those different professions that they transition to are so different that you wouldn't necessarily pick out that something super legal adjacent. So it just goes to show that so many skills you pick up as a practicing attorney can transfer to things that you may never think about.
It's a great point. I mean, we've helped, I think, over 100. We have about 400 or 500 jobs in our database that we work with to help people understand what could be a fit for them. And I think graduates have been in over 100, 150 different jobs: sales, biz dev, operations, chief of staff, policy, trust officer, revenue operations, like I mentioned. I just go recruiting. It goes on and on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Casey, thank you so much again for all the practical advice and the insights. Going forward, what is the best way for our listeners to follow you and to learn more about your work?
Yeah, leavelawbehind.com. You can always find me there. I'm Casey, Casey, at leavelawbehind.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, Casey Berman SF for San Francisco, Casey Berman SF. You can find me there, and I post online a few times a week, just my thoughts about attorneys and leaving the law. So find me anywhere, send me an email, or just go to our site and opt in and get a ton of free resources sent directly to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again, Casey.
No, thanks for having me. It was my pleasure.
Yep, take care. Okay, I'm going to stay on and record an intro and an outro. Any questions that we didn't get to or that you want to re-record or anything?
No, I tried to get in detail, but not talk too much. Was that okay? I know I went on a bit in some areas, but.
No, I thought that was perfect. Some of the answers were shorter and a couple were really detailed. So I think that was a perfect mix. Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you for giving away so much free information for people. So we'll link your website and everything in the notes. So hopefully people will visit.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So we will publish this in probably 2 weeks, but we'll let you know. And then we promote on our socials. I forgot if I asked you for a headshot, but our team puts together just a little graphic to promote the episode. So I can use the one on your website or LinkedIn, or if you want to send me like a new headshot, it's up to you.
If you can just right click on LinkedIn and download it, if that's high res enough for you. Otherwise I can send you one, but that'll work. Also, we have an article, Alternative Careers. If you could put that in the bio too, just to get a backlink. So leavelawbehind.com, and then this other article, I can send you the link. If it flows with the language, that'd be great.
Totally.
Yeah. Yep. Otherwise, sounds great.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll keep you posted as we get this edited. And then, if anything else comes up in the meantime, you know how to reach me.
Sounds good. All right. So I'll go and you're going to do the intro and outro.
Yep, I'm going to stay on. So thank you again so much for making the schedule work and being a good guest.
Yeah, thank you. No, great questions. Thank you very much. And keep doing the work you're doing. I appreciate it.
Of course. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and join us again for another Rule of Law podcast from All Rise.